Black America, you already know the church. You grew up in it. You sat in those pews. You ate that food. But I need to ask you something. Did you know you were sitting inside a bank? Did you know that kitchen in the back was a war room? Did you know that the Sunday dinner you remember from your childhood was the one financial system Jim Crow never figured out how to kill? The marches made the textbooks. The speeches made the documentaries. But the real engine of Black survival during Jim Crow was not in the streets. It was behind a pot of stewed greens and underneath a pound cake wrapped in wax paper. And the proof that it was working, they started bombing the kitchens. Think about what Jim Crow actually was. It was not just mean signs on bathroom doors. It was a total economic chokehold. Black people could not get bank loans, could not sit on juries, could not vote in most of the South, could not open businesses in white commercial districts. Every institution that could have helped them was either closed to them or controlled by the same people oppressing them. Schools, banks, courts, government, all locked up tight, except one. The Black church was the only institution that Jim Crow could not fully get inside. The minister answered to his congregation, not to a white employer. The building was bought and paid for by Black hands. The food on the table was cooked by Black women who answered to nobody but God. Scholar Carter G. Woodson wrote in 1930 that the Black church was the only institution the race truly controlled. Sociologist E. Franklin Frazier called it a nation within a nation. They were not being poetic. They were describing something real, something dangerous, something that terrified the people in power far more than any protest sign ever could. Because when you understand what was actually happening inside those church walls every single Sunday, you will understand why they brought the dynamite. Here is what Sunday dinner actually looked like. You have escaped every chokehold Jim Crow put on you for 6 days straight. Monday through Saturday, you work for white families. You step off sidewalks. You say yes, sir, and no, sir, and keep your eyes down. You survive. Then Sunday comes. You walk into that church. The smell of frying chicken hits you before you even open the door. The women of the Missionary Society have been there since 6 in the morning. They cooked pound cakes and sweet potato pies and plates of fried fish and stewed greens. You sit down and eat. And when that offering plate comes around, or when someone passes a hat, or when Sister Georgia calls out how much the club raised this week, that money does not disappear. It goes somewhere specific. It solves a specific problem that Jim Crow created. Bail money for someone who got arrested at a demonstration. Legal defense for a family fighting an unjust charge. School supplies for children whose segregated school got nothing from the county. A mortgage payment for a family the bank was trying to push out. Transportation costs for people who refused to ride a segregated bus. This was community banking, run out of a church kitchen, invisible to the system, immune to economic retaliation. And it worked. The clearest proof of this is Georgia Gilmore. Remember that name. She was a cook and midwife from Montgomery, Alabama. Not a famous organizer, not a politician, a cook. But in 1955, when the Montgomery bus boycott began, Georgia Gilmore turned her kitchen into a movement financing operation that helped bring the entire system to its knees. She organized a network of Black women who sold fried chicken sandwiches, pound cakes, and plates of food door to door all across Montgomery. More than half of the city's Black female workers were employed by white families. If those women had shown up to a rally or signed their names to anything, they would have lost their jobs the next morning. Georgia Gilmore gave them a way to fight that nobody could trace. Sell some pound cake. Hand the money to Georgia. Georgia hands it to the Montgomery Improvement Association. The Montgomery Improvement Association uses it to fund the alternative transportation system that kept 40,000 Black people off segregated buses for 381 days. She brought that money to the bi-weekly rallies at Holt Street Baptist Church. She stood up in front of the crowd twice a week and emptied out coins and bills and announced how much the club had collected. Dr. King was in the room, and Georgia Gilmore, a cook, was one of the highlights of those meetings. The boycott worked. The buses desegregated. And part of what paid for that victory was pound cake, sold door to door, by women who could not afford to be seen fighting. That is the full picture starting to come into focus. But the story gets bigger and darker. Hold that thought for a second. Hey family, Real talk. YouTube has shut down channels for telling exactly these kinds of stories. So I need you to find us off this platform. Go to blackstories-untold.com. Join our mailing list and make sure we stay connected no matter what they do. Now, back to what happened next. Because Georgia Gilmore was not alone and Montgomery was not unique. This same church kitchen infrastructure was running in cities all across the South. The Southern Christian Leadership Conference, the SCLC, was founded in 1957 at a church in Atlanta, Georgia. Its leadership was almost entirely ministers. It held its meetings at black churches because those were the only safe spaces large enough, private enough, and economically independent enough to function as headquarters. When the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee was formed in April 1960, it came together at a conference held at Shaw University in Raleigh, North Carolina. Ella Baker, an SCLC official, helped pull those young leaders together. The meeting happened at a school, but the network that sustained SNCC's work in the field ran through church spaces across the South. In Alabama, the NAACP was literally outlawed in 1956 and did not come back until 1964. When the government shuts down your organization by law, where do you meet? Where do you plan? Where do you raise money? You meet in the church. This is the thing they do not teach you. The movement had an organizational structure, a financial structure, a communications network, and the church was the building that housed all of it. The Sunday dinner table was where the plans were made and the money was counted. Nowhere was this more visible and more threatening to the system than Birmingham, Alabama. By the early 1960s, Birmingham was the most segregated city in the United States. They had earned a different name by then. People called it Bombingham. Between 1947 and 1963, the city experienced more than 50 bombings aimed at black homes, businesses, and gathering places. More than 50. And the attacks kept escalating because the organizing kept escalating. Right in the center of all of it stood the 16th Street Baptist Church. The church had been organized in 1873 as the first colored Baptist church of Birmingham. The building you know, the one with the two towers, was completed in 1911. It sat blocks from Birmingham City Hall and Commercial District. Because of its size and location, it had become the nerve center of black civic life in the city. Mass meetings, civil rights rallies, community planning sessions. When Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth founded the Alabama Christian Movement for Human Rights to directly confront racism and segregation in Birmingham, 16th Street Baptist was one of his primary stages. When Martin Luther King and the SCLC launched Project C in the spring of 1963, a planned campaign of nonviolent confrontation against Birmingham's segregation, 16th Street Baptist was the base of operations. On May 2, 1963, thousands of high school and college students walked out of school, gathered at 16th Street Baptist Church, and marched downtown in what became known as the Children's Crusade. They walked straight into Bull Connor's fire hoses and police dogs. The whole world watched. The images changed the country, and it all launched from that church. This is where everything connects. That church was not just a worship space. It was a command center, a treasury, a communications hub, a launching pad. And the people who wanted Birmingham to stay the way it was knew exactly what it was. On Sunday morning, September 15, 1963, about 200 church members were inside the building getting ready for services in Sunday school. 4 girls were downstairs in a basement restroom putting on their choir robes. Their names were Addie Mae Collins, Carol Robertson, and Cynthia Wesley, all 14 years old, and Denise McNair. She was 11. At 10:22 in the morning, 19 sticks of dynamite planted beneath the church steps by members of a local white terror organization detonated. The blast caved in interior walls. Mortar and bricks flew. Those 4 girls were found beneath the rubble. 4 children, killed in their Sunday best, in a church on a Sunday morning. The 4 men responsible were Thomas Edwin Blanton Jr., Robert Edward Chambliss, Bobby Frank Cherry, and Herman Frank Cash. Chambliss would not be convicted until 1977. Blanton and Cherry were not convicted until 2001 and 2002. Cash died without ever facing trial. For decades, these men walked free, and it is widely documented that FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover's handling of the case in the 1960s contributed to the delay in justice, a historical debate that is contested but not invented. The bombing did not silence the movement, it accelerated it. The public outrage that followed pushed momentum toward the Civil Rights Act of 1964. The very act of terror that was meant to destroy the infrastructure ended up exposing the system to the world. But do not let that resolution make you forget what the bombing actually meant. They were not attacking a symbol. They were attacking a building because of what happened inside it, because of the meetings that were planned there, because of the money that was raised there, because of the children who were trained there to march and sit in and refuse to move. They brought dynamite because the kitchen and the pews and the collection plate were winning. And Birmingham was not the only target. During Freedom Summer in 1964 alone, 37 black churches across Mississippi were bombed or burned. 37 in one summer. These were not random acts of hatred by scattered individuals. These were attacks on infrastructure. Every church that burned was a church where freedom school classes had been held, where voter registration drives had been organized, where movement money had been raised and counted. James Chaney, Michael Schwerner, and Andrew Goodman were killed in Mississippi in June 1964. They had gone to investigate the burning of a black church that was set to be a freedom school site. They were killed because of what they found. The violence and the organizing were directly connected. Now here is the grand payoff, and I need you to sit with this. The black church kitchen was not charity. It was not culture. It was not just a nice tradition of good Southern cooking after service. It was a financial system, a parallel economy operating in plain sight, inside an institution that Jim Crow could not legally own, could not economically strangle, and could not surveil without physically entering the building. The women who ran those kitchens, Georgia Gilmore, the missionaries of the National Baptist Convention, the women Nanny Helen Burroughs organized through the Women's Auxiliary, they were not cooking. They were banking. They were fundraising. They were running a financial operation that funded the legal defense, the bail money, the transportation networks, and the school supplies of an entire people locked out of the formal economy. And when the system finally understood what was happening, it did not pass a law to stop the cooking. It sent men with dynamite. It sent men with matches. It sent men at night to burn the buildings down. Because you cannot legislate away a pound cake. You cannot make it illegal for a woman to cook fried chicken and donate the proceeds to her community. The only way to stop it was to destroy the place where it happened. That pattern did not end in 1968. In a period of just 18 months in 1995 and 1996, more than 30 black churches were burned across the South. Congress had to pass the Church Arson Prevention Act in 1996 because the attacks were happening at that scale. The tools changed. The intention did not. And today, the threat looks different again. It does not come with a match or a timing device. It comes with a rezoning notice. It comes with rising property values pushing black families out of the neighborhoods where their churches stand. When the congregation scatters, the kitchen closes. When the kitchen closes, the community banking stops. When the community banking stops, all the things it used to fund, the bail money, the legal defense, the school supplies, the organizing, all of that loses its foundation. Gentrification is doing quietly what dynamite used to do loudly, dismantling the infrastructure, dispersing the people, erasing the institution. The black church kitchen outsmarted Jim Crow because it operated in a space Jim Crow could not fully control. The question for right now, today, is whether we understand what we are losing and whether we are going to fight to protect it with the same ferocity as the women who got up at 6 in the morning to cook pound cakes for freedom. Georgia Gilmore understood that a plate of food was a weapon, that a kitchen was a command center, that Sunday dinner was a strategy. The movement was fed from those tables, and it won. Do not let anybody convince you that the table does not matter anymore. It matters more than ever. This was Black Stories Untold, and as always, thanks for watching. If you want more stories like this, click the video on your screen now.